Hello, thinkers. What if I told you that 73% of people will sabotage their most important relationship this year, and they'll have no idea why? Here's the disturbing truth. Freud identified these destructive patterns over a century ago, yet we're repeating them at an unprecedented scale in 2025. Right now, as you watch this, your unconscious mind might be plotting against your career, your love life, your very happiness. The question isn't whether you're doing these behaviors, it's which ones are secretly destroying your life. Are you ready to face what your mind has been hiding from you? Because what I'm about to reveal will either wake you up or make you realize you've been sleepwalking through your most precious relationships. The 7 behaviors I'll expose aren't just mistakes. They're psychological time bombs that Freud warned would detonate exactly when you think you're safe. Which one is ticking in your life right now? Picture this. You post a perfect vacation photo while fighting with your partner in the hotel room. Sound familiar? Welcome to what I call digital repression, the modern twist on Freud's most dangerous discovery. Freud taught us that whatever we repress in our unconscious doesn't disappear. It returns with vengeance. But here's what's terrifying about 2025. We're not just repressing our darkness anymore. We're broadcasting our fake light. Every curated post, every filtered selfie, every living my best life caption is pushing your authentic self deeper into the shadow. And your unconscious? It's keeping score. Think about it. When did you last show your real struggles online? Your actual face without filters? Your genuine emotions without the performance? Here's the psychological trap. The more perfect your digital persona becomes, the more your real relationships suffer. Why? Because you're training yourself to be fake. Your brain can't distinguish between performing happiness online and feeling it in real life. You're literally rewiring your neural pathways for deception. But it gets worse. Your career is suffering too. That LinkedIn highlight reel you've created? It's making you terrified of taking real risks, of showing vulnerability, of being human at work. You've become a prisoner of your own digital perfection. Your colleagues sense the inauthenticity. Your boss questions your self-awareness. Your authentic leadership potential dies behind the screen. Freud called this the return of the repressed. In 2025, it shows up as anxiety attacks after posting, relationship breakdowns despite looking happy online, and career stagnation despite appearing successful. Your shadow self is screaming to be seen, but you keep feeding it into the digital void. The question that will change everything: what would happen if you posted your truth tomorrow? Not your trauma dump, your authentic human experience, your real face, your actual thoughts, your genuine struggles and victories. Your unconscious is begging for integration. Are you brave enough to stop performing and start being? Because the cost of digital repression isn't just your mental health, it's your capacity for real love, real success, and real fulfillment. The mask you wear online is becoming the prison you live in offline. Stop me if this sounds familiar. You have an intense emotional reaction to your boss's approval. You crave their validation more than your salary. You feel crushed when they're disappointed, elated when they praise you. Now here's the uncomfortable question. Does this sound more intense than your feelings toward your romantic partner? Welcome to Transference, Freud's most relationship-destroying discovery. You're unconsciously casting your boss as the parent you never had, or the one who never gave you enough. And your partner? They're getting cast as the parent who hurt you. This isn't love or professional respect. This is your childhood playing out in adult costumes. Here's what's happening in your brain. Every time your boss gives feedback, your unconscious hears your father's voice. Every time your partner asks for emotional intimacy, your unconscious feels your mother's suffocating control. You're not responding to who these people actually are. You're responding to ghosts from your past. But here's the career killer. You're making your boss responsible for your self-worth. You're seeking parental approval in professional settings. You're confusing authority with love, hierarchy with family. Your colleagues see it. Your performance suffers because you're too emotionally invested in the wrong dynamics. You can't think strategically when you're thinking like a child seeking approval. And your relationships? They're doomed from the start. You're either looking for a parent in your partner, someone to take care of you, validate you, complete you, or you're running from intimacy because it triggers your deepest wounds. You're not dating adults. You're trying to heal childhood through romance. If you found value in understanding these hidden patterns that control your life, hit that like button, because recognizing transference is the first step to freedom. And subscribe to Mind Revelation, because we're just getting started on exposing the unconscious forces that shape your reality. The brutal truth? Most people spend their entire lives in transferential relationships, never experiencing authentic connection. They change jobs, seeking the perfect boss parent. They change partners, seeking the ideal lover parent. But the pattern follows them everywhere because the problem isn't out there, it's in here. So ask yourself, who are you really talking to when you talk to your boss? Who are you really sleeping next to when you're with your partner? Until you see the ghosts, you'll keep dancing with shadows instead of living with real people. How many times did you check your phone today? Be honest. Now here's the real question. How many of those times were you feeding what Freud called narcissistic supply? That addictive hit of external validation that's slowly killing your ability to love and be loved. Welcome to the most dangerous paradox of 2025. We're more connected than ever, yet more emotionally isolated than any generation in history. And it's not an accident. It's narcissism disguised as self-care, ego inflation masquerading as confidence. Here's what's happening in your brain every time you post. You're not sharing a moment. You're performing for an audience that exists primarily in your imagination. That dopamine hit from likes? It's training your brain to seek external validation instead of internal worth. You're literally rewiring your neural pathways to depend on strangers for self-esteem. But here's where it gets psychologically devastating. True narcissism isn't self-love, it's the opposite. It's a desperate attempt to fill an inner void through external admiration. Every selfie, every humble brag, every carefully crafted post is actually a cry for help from a wounded inner child who never learned they were enough just as they are. And your relationships are paying the price. When you're addicted to digital validation, real intimacy feels threatening. Why? Because real love requires vulnerability, authenticity, the willingness to be seen without filters. But you've trained yourself to only feel valuable when you're performing. Your partner can't compete with the endless stream of likes and comments feeding your ego. Your career suffers too. Narcissistic behavior in professional settings is relationship poison. You can't truly collaborate when everything is about you. You can't receive feedback when criticism feels like an attack on your carefully constructed image. You can't mentor others when you're too busy managing your own brand. Here's the terrifying truth Freud understood. The more you feed the narcissistic ego, the smaller your authentic self becomes. You become a hollow performance, a beautiful shell with nothing real inside. People sense this emptiness. They might follow your content, but they don't trust you with their hearts or their business. The question that will shatter your illusions: when was the last time you felt genuinely happy without needing to tell anyone about it? When did you last accomplish something and keep it private? When did you last love someone without needing them to validate how lovable you are? Your phone isn't connecting you to the world, it's disconnecting you from yourself. And the cost isn't just loneliness, it's the death of your capacity for real love, real achievement, real fulfillment. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. Look at your last 3 relationships. Now look at your last 3 jobs. Do you see a pattern? The same type of toxic boss? The same emotionally unavailable partner? The same drama? Different faces? This isn't bad luck. This is what Freud called repetition compulsion, and it's the most insidious way your unconscious mind sabotages your future by recreating your past. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to heal you. But it's using the worst possible strategy. Here's the psychological trap. Your unconscious believes that if you can just get this toxic boss to appreciate you, you'll finally heal the wound your critical father left. If you can just make this emotionally distant partner love you, you'll prove you're worthy of the affection your mother withheld. You're not choosing these people. You're choosing these wounds, hoping this time will be different. But here's what's really happening. You're walking into emotional minefields disguised as opportunities. That job that feels familiar, it's familiar because it's recreating your childhood trauma. That partner who reminds you of home. Home was where you learned love was conditional, scarce, and painful. Your unconscious mind has a twisted logic. The familiar is safe even when the familiar is dangerous. So you gravitate toward what hurts because pain feels like home. You reject healthy relationships because they feel foreign, boring, too good to be true. You sabotage good opportunities because success feels unfamiliar and therefore threatening. Think about it. How many times have you had a chance at a healthy relationship and found yourself creating drama? How many times have you been offered a supportive work environment and felt uncomfortable, like you didn't belong? Your trauma is your comfort zone, and your comfort zone is your prison. The career cost is devastating. You keep choosing bosses who trigger your deepest insecurities, then wonder why you can't perform at your best. You accept toxic work cultures because they feel normal. You turn down opportunities that would require you to believe you deserve better. And your relationships? They're archaeological digs into your childhood wounds. You're not dating people. You're dating your unresolved trauma. You're not building a future. You're recreating your past, hoping for a different ending that never comes. Here's the question that will change everything. What if the reason you keep attracting the same problems is because you haven't healed the original wound? What if your unconscious is trying to tell you something, and you keep misunderstanding the message? The pattern will continue until you make the unconscious conscious. Until you realize that healing doesn't come from getting toxic people to love you. It comes from learning to love yourself enough to choose better. Here's a question that might shatter your entire identity. What if your greatest strength is actually your greatest weakness? What if the very thing you're most proud of, your work ethic, your passion, your dedication, is slowly destroying everything you claim to care about? Freud discovered that we sublimate our deepest drives into socially acceptable outlets. Sexual energy becomes creative energy. Aggressive impulses become competitive drive. Emotional needs become professional ambition. This is supposed to be healthy, but in 2025, we've weaponized sublimation against ourselves. You call it following your passion. Freud would call it emotional avoidance. That 80-hour work week isn't dedication, it's escape. That obsession with your business isn't entrepreneurial spirit, it's fear of intimacy. That constant need to achieve isn't ambition, it's an attempt to earn the love you never received as a child. Here's what's really happening. You're using work to avoid feeling. Every time your partner needs emotional connection, you have a deadline. Every time your children need attention, you have a meeting. Every time your body needs rest, you have goals to achieve. You've turned productivity into a drug, and like any addiction, it's destroying your relationships while promising to fulfill them. But here's the psychological trap. Society celebrates your dysfunction. Your workaholism gets praised as hustle. Your emotional unavailability gets labeled as focus. Your inability to be present gets called drive. You're getting rewarded for the very behaviors that are killing your capacity for love and joy. The brutal truth? You're not passionate about your work. You're terrified of your feelings. Work has become your emotional fortress, protecting you from vulnerability, intimacy, and the terrifying possibility of being truly seen and potentially rejected. And here's the career irony. This inverted sublimation is actually making you less effective. When you're using work to avoid life, you can't think creatively. When you're driven by fear instead of inspiration, you make desperate decisions. When you're addicted to busyness, you lose the ability to think strategically. Your relationships are suffocating under the weight of your success. Your partner feels like they're competing with your laptop. Your children are growing up with a ghost parent who's physically present but emotionally absent. Your friends have stopped inviting you because you always have something important to do. The question that will expose everything: if you couldn't work for 6 months, who would you be? If your achievements disappeared tomorrow, what would be left? If you had to sit in silence with your thoughts and feelings for 1 hour, what would come up? Your passion has become your prison because you're not pursuing what you love. You're running from what you fear. And the cost isn't just your relationships, it's your soul, your authenticity, your capacity for genuine fulfillment. If you've made it this far, something inside you is ready to wake up. And that takes courage, because most people would rather stay unconscious than face the uncomfortable truth about their self-destructive patterns. But you're still here, which means you're different. You're ready to choose consciousness over comfort. Let's be brutally honest about what we've uncovered. You're living in digital repression, projecting your childhood onto your relationships, feeding your ego while starving your soul, repeating trauma disguised as choice, and using your passion as an escape from your pain. These aren't separate problems. They're all symptoms of the same disease, unconscious living. Here's what Freud understood that we've forgotten. Your unconscious mind is not your enemy. It's your wounded inner child trying to protect you with strategies that worked when you were 5, but are destroying you at 35. Every self-sabotaging behavior is actually a survival mechanism that's outlived its usefulness. But here's the revolutionary truth. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Once you understand the game your unconscious is playing, you can choose to play a different game. Consciousness is the antidote to compulsion. Awareness is the enemy of automaticity. The 3 steps to freedom start today. First, catch yourself in the act. When you feel that familiar emotional charge, with your boss, your partner, your phone, pause and ask, what wound is this triggering? Second, choose differently. Not perfectly, just differently. One conscious choice breaks the pattern. Third, be patient with yourself. You're rewiring decades of programming. Healing isn't linear. Here's your moment of truth. You can close this video and go back to unconscious living. Or you can make the choice that changes everything. You can keep being a victim of your patterns, or you can become the author of your transformation. I want you to do something right now. Write the word conscious in the comments below. Not just because I asked, but because you're making a commitment to yourself. You're declaring that you're done being controlled by unconscious forces. You're choosing to wake up. And congratulations. The fact that you've watched this entire video means you're already more self-aware than 95% of people walking around in psychological sleep. The question isn't whether you have these patterns. We all do. The question is, what are you going to do about them? Your unconscious has been running your life long enough. It's time to take back control. It's time to choose consciousness. It's time to live the life you actually want, not the one your wounds think you deserve. The journey to consciousness starts with a single choice. Make it now.